So there is a sizable demographic that will go and see a film that has that message. Barbie's success is proof of that. It's impossible to be in a happy relationship as a woman. You have to be deprogrammed and de-brainwashed by the Barbie Taliban into being miserable and alone and independent. But that was really popular and really successful because it actually understood its target audience. So the success and the failure of this isn't necessarily just to do with the message. It's also, like with the Bud Light thing, are you calling your existing target audience a bunch of hillbilly backward people, frat boys who must
Frat
be
boys,
educated?
yeah.
Or are you giving them something they want? People, when it's a long established brand and people's behavior is usually quite set, it's when they start getting a message they're not expecting and they don't like that they react against it. But on the other hand, you can say exactly the same thing to a very different group of people, and lo and behold, you make $1 billion at a film. So it's not just the message.
I think with Barbie, though, it was because it's the IP so massive, Margot Robbie and all that, they had that going for them. But generally speaking, like everything that does the best is devoid of woke stuff. Like Spider-Man No Way Home made like 1 point whatever billion during the pandemic.
I think as a general rule, like as you guys were saying there, like the Barbie movie understood its audience. It was marketed specifically to women. I think the problem that you've had with these, say for example, trying to convert the MCU over to the MCU or whatever, like is and making it all about the girl power.
But they didn't look like girls. Sorry, Critical.
Well, I know, but
that they turned them into men. The beauty of Barbie was they remained women. That was the big shock to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to say is that you're taking brands like Marvel or Star Wars or even Star Trek, which are predominantly male oriented, like they're a predominantly male audience, and you're trying to bend them around a female perspective. And that's why it kept failing, because ultimately your audience isn't going to embrace that. You're going to drift further and further away from the things that attracted men to those franchises. In this case of Star Trek, it might have been the technology, the science, the thought-provoking stuff. With Star Wars, it might be the action and having a kick-ass male hero or whatever, going on the hero's journey. And with Marvel, it's just like the aspirational superhero tied in with technology or with godlike beings with amazing powers and stuff. Whatever you want to define it as, these are all things that generally appealed a bit more to men, and that's why it kept failing. They were trying to bend it around female interests. Didn't work. With Barbie, it was just purely like, okay, this is a movie by and large for women. It's going to have all feminine, female stuff in it that they like. That's why it succeeded so well. Like they didn't try and fit a square peg into a round hole.
And the question is, you had properties that worked in that male domain. They were successful. Why change it?
Yeah.
Nice doggy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're restless.
But I think
Why change it?
Whether this has been some crazy like conspiracy, social engineering exercise, or whether it was just a greedy company trying to expand beyond their core audience, but instead of like adding a new audience in, they essentially alienated their existing one and failed to attract a new one.
Right.
Not sure. I just know it hasn't worked with Marvel, it hasn't worked with Star Wars, and it hasn't worked with Star Trek. So all these big properties have essentially just been burned because they've taken them in the wrong direction. Whether they've learned a lesson from Barbie, in that we can take specifically female properties and we'll market them specifically to women instead of trying to make this homogenized thing that just appeals to everyone, or whether they actually learn that lesson or not, I don't know. But it would I suppose it would be a nice balance to be able to say, right, we're going to have this genre of thing, whether it's superhero, whether it's science fiction or whatever. It's going to be more targeted towards men. We're going to appeal to them because those are the people who watch it anyway. And we're going to target other movies like Barbie or similar things specifically to women. Each person, each gender gets something that they enjoy, and they don't have to try and make something that tries to appeal to everyone and just ends up alienating.
Well, I think but we split things. So where there's always going to be movies like The Expendables, which is not targeted towards women. That's going to continue. That's not going to stop. What generally, I think what we're referring to is our pop culture favorites that have been twisted and destroyed. That's really been the biggest disappointment for all of us. We spent a lot of time talking about that. But there will be movies for men and there'll be movies for, women. That's not going to change. We just want our favorite movies to not get fucked up.
Unfortunately, they're all learning the wrong thing from it, though, because Barbie did so well, and now they want to make like a Polly Pocket movie where Lena Dunham is directing it or something. And that's all studios learn. Stupid.
Well, fine. Like, if you want to make it, cool. Like, I just don't take, I don't know, like, what would it be? Bloody He-Man or something like that, which they already tried to do, and they turned that into a female-led thing. Why?
They did it to everything.
It's like, it's called fucking He-Man. It was the toys that little boys played with in the 80s. Like, it's a boy thing. Okay, you can't make that a female-centric story, so leave stuff like that alone. I guess that's the point. And like Paul says, the things that we end up getting pissed off about is the pop culture stuff, the stuff that has a real cultural impact. Star Wars is probably a good example of that because it's impacted whole generations of people. And that has a huge influence over the rest of Hollywood, the success or failure of movies like that. And so that's why it's important to, I guess, make that distinction and have that separation.
I think the movie that's going to decide a lot of this future stuff about like the whole female empowerment, it's going to be the Marvels. And I don't think it's going to do well at all.
I don't.
It's going to be
I agree with you in the sense that it's probably not going to do well, but I think most of the mainstream media probably knows it's not going to do well at this point. I don't think many people are going to hitch their wagons to the Marvels now. I think the studio knows it's not going to be a hit. That's why they kept delaying it.
I wouldn't be surprised they try and forget about it soon after it comes out. Kind of like all these late DC projects.
I think Aquaman's screwed.
Yeah, that's done as well. That whole DC EU brand is just dead. But with the Marvels, I think even the director knows it's going to tank because she's already making excuses about it.
Yep.
Yeah, Nia DaCosta.
Yeah. Yep. She knows that, one, the superhero genre is dying out anyway. Two, it's a massively unpopular character that she's dealing with. And three, it's probably a shit movie that she's ended up making anyway because she works in low budget stuff. She's not.
Yeah, she did the Candyman remake.
Yeah, and to be fair, that was fine. Like, that's obviously her niche. That's what she's good at. This is not. And she probably knows that she's made a crap movie.
I have a question,
she's even made like really disparaging remarks about like, they'd be shooting stuff one day and she had no fucking clue what it was supposed to be doing in the script.
What do you think is going to replace? Like, obviously, we had different eras. We had the Western era. We had the superhero era. Like, what would be the next era? I guess. Like, what would be the next thing?
It's either going to be a return to sort of generalized action movies, action blockbusters, or video game adaptations.
Really,
I think, yeah. This year, we've had the Mario Brothers movie, one of the, I think, is second biggest box office haul of the year, behind only the Barbie movie. So that's like the movie side of things. It proves that like strong brands like that have got a massive appeal. And the Last of Us TV show, like on HBO, you can say what you will about how good it was, but like it was pretty accurate to the game, and
as someone who's been
very successful critically, and I think it attracted a huge audience. So it's proven both from a TV point of view and a blockbuster movie point of view, video game adaptations can work. There's been missteps, obviously, that like the Halo TV show was kind of garbage from what I understand, but it's a process of refinement, and it proves that like there's going to end up being more and more hits rather than misses. And I think the market there is enormous. I mean, yourself, like the video game industry compared to Hollywood, it dwarfs it.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, I'm wondering because they're doing the Fallout show on Amazon. That's coming soon. Actually, I think the trailer got leaked like a month ago or something for that one.
Right.
They're doing Devil May Cry on Netflix. Bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, we've had The Witcher. Obviously, that was a failure, but
again, The Witcher. Makes me depressed every time I think about it.
These are all like stepping stones on the way, and I think that the more they progress, the more they'll get a feel for what works and what doesn't. And I think this is probably going to be the next big thing, because much like with comic books and superheroes, there's a huge latent market there, and there's a huge backlog of amazing stories and characters that you can exploit. Which have essentially done the work for you, because Hollywood likes nothing better than just having pre-made characters and stories that they can just adapt, rather than having to take a risk on creating something entirely new. So this is perfect. It's going to be a new superhero gold rush, but it's going to be video games now.
Be very interesting, because I remember hearing about Amazon wanting to make Mass Effect into a TV show. Mass Effect is one of my favorite things of all time. I've 100% of the games on both Xbox and PlayStation. Love those games to death. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying I agree.
Oh, yeah, you're too. My bad. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
No, huge Mass Effect.
Huge Mass Effect fan. I love those games so much. I know, like
ass shots. That's what I want. Or just ass shots in leather.
Yeah, exactly.
Sexy Edie.
I'm a Liara guy myself, but and my girlfriend's Garrus. Garrus is her guy. She loves.
I can see that.
Every woman loves Garrus. Like every single one of them all romanced him. But like if they make a Mass Effect show, that'd be good. You have Henry Cavill doing the Warhammer show. Hopefully that's good. Not exactly video games, but they've made video games about it. But still, that could be great as well.
So I have a prediction for the next big IP hit. With the success of Oppenheimer, I think we're going heavily into nuclear physics. I think we're going to get the whole dust up between Einstein and Niels Bohr. That's going to be fascinating to a lot of people. Enrico Fermi's discovery of nuclear attraction. Wow, I can hardly wait for that. And then, of course, you've got Sir Ernest Rutherford, who discovered the fact that photons can travel through a vacuum and still interact with gold foil. Like, let me tell you guys, you have not seen anything yet.
I think what Drinker said, I believe that the future of a lot of franchises is going to be cross media stuff. So, for example, the people who make League of Legends, Riot Games, they took League of Legends. I never really played League of Legends myself, but I have played the spin-off games that they've made, like Ruin King. There's one called Convergence, one called Mage Seeker. And then they made the TV show Arcane, which a lot of people loved.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're going to see more of going forward. I think Bungie is probably going to do the same thing with Destiny, because they got bought by Sony PlayStation. And I think it's just like Drinker said, like there's so much built-in lore install bases with all these different IPs that they could basically tell limitless stories. Like if Destiny got a Netflix series and every episode was a different part of the universe, like one episode's about the Hive, one episode's about the Fallen, one episode's about Saint 14, all these different characters in there.
Skyrim has been talked about.
Skyrim would be amazing as a show.
That's got a fantastic
so much stuff.
And I
would love to see Destiny that actually had a backstory filled in instead of the game where it's like this tiny.
Imagine that though, like every single episode, like here's one episode about the Hive and the sword logic. Here's one about the Fallen. Here's one about the collapse.
I just want to say that
my God.
I just did not feel I got enough laughter for my nuclear physics run.
I'm sorry. I'm too.
I was hoping way more laughter.
I'm imagining now that this sort of scientist Avengers movie in the style of One Piece, where they all shout out their final moves. Einstein's theory of